VLOOKUP is one of the most commonly cited formulas in job applications for roles in finance and accounting. It is an incredibly important formula with many uses and applications. People are often intimidated by using VLOOKUP as they believe it to be very complicated. In this video, we're going to demonstrate one of the most straightforward uses of VLOOKUP and how it can actually be easily tamed. One of the most important hurdles with VLOOKUPs is understanding the reason for it and what value it brings to us. What a VLOOKUP allows us to do is to combine information from two tables. For example, at the tables I'm looking at here, I have information relating to my sales. In a completely separate table, I have information relating to my commission. What I want to know in this example is what the total value in dollars should be of the commission payment I need to give to my different salespeople. So we're trying to combine information from two separate tables, but these two separate tables also have their data structured differently. For example, this is a summary table just listing my individual sales reps, and here I have a list of transactions with individual sales. So I cannot simply copy and paste these commission values into this column here because they will be in the incorrect order. So what I need to do is find every instance that relates to Jones. I can apply into this cell a commission value from this table. So in this case, 5% commission should apply in this row here for Jones, in this row here for Jones, and any other instances where I might find Jones further down the list. So in this way, our VLOOKUP is going to look up values for us in a different table and bring it into the current table. Now we understand the context of what the VLOOKUP is doing, let's have a look at the syntax of the VLOOKUP formula. So I'm going to start my formula with the equals, type VLOOK, and press tab to auto-complete the formula and open the first bracket. From here I have four parameters: my lookup value, my table array, column index, and range lookup. The first three parameters are going to be the most important ones. So that is my lookup value. In this case, the thing that I want to reference by, the thing that joins these two tables is the sales rep. Sales rep appears here and sales rep appears here. It is the common feature in both tables, and it allows me to reference a Jones found in this table to a Jones found in this table. Now, because I want the information pulled into this table relative to our sales table, I need to select this Jones here. We are going to fill the formula down throughout the column, so I need to look at a relatively positioned sales rep column. The next parameter I need to give the VLOOKUP is the table array where to find information. So our first parameter, our lookup value, is our criteria, if you like. It is the thing we are looking for. In our second parameter value, the table array, it is where we are looking for it. In this situation, I'm going to highlight the entire table. Notice I am omitting the column headers. That is because I'm only interested in searching within the data, not within the column headers. From here, my next parameter is the column index. The way that my VLOOKUP is going to work is it's going to take the lookup value and it's going to look in the table data. But it's only going to look for my lookup value in the first column. That's my sales rep column. And it's important that your table be arranged in this way, with a lookup value in the first column and all other data of interest in subsequent columns. So bearing in mind that I will find my Jones or my criteria in the first column, the parameter I need to feed the VLOOKUP is the column to return. That is the column I want the formula to bring back for me. So in this case, it's going to take this cell Jones as my criteria. It's going to look for a Jones in this table, and it goes, there's a Jones. From this row of Jones-related information, which column do you want me to bring back? In this situation, I want to bring back the second column. That's because I'm looking for the commission value to be added to this commission column. So I type my column index as column 2. The last parameter I need to feed my VLOOKUP is the range lookup. This is an optional parameter that by default is set to true. However, for our particular example here, we need to set it as false. You'll notice that there are a description of what true and false will do in relation to the VLOOKUP. True will give you an approximate match and false will give you an exact match. Because we want in this situation an exact match, i.e. we want to match exactly Jones with only Jones and nobody else that has a name similar to Jones, I'm going to select the false option. I can click on this tag here and autocomplete false, or I can type the word false, or I can in fact type just a 0. In binary language, my 0 represents false and 1 represents true. But for clarity, let's just leave the word false. From here I can close my bracket and hit enter. From here we can now see that information relating to Jones in the second commission column has been extracted from this table and pulled into this table. Before I fill my formula down, of course, I do need to lock down this table. I select the range I'm interested in, hit F4, and the range is locked. I can hit enter again to exit from my formula, and now fill down the formula. We can see that all of the values have now been extracted from this table and filled into this table. Let's check a couple of examples. Sorvino's commission is at 9%. Here we have a bunch of Sorvinos. They're all coming in at 9%. Here we have Kivel at 6. Let's have a look. Kivel at 6%. Okay, to continue, let's now pull in the bonus information using a very similar VLOOKUP structure. I'm going to type my equals, start VLOOKUP, and press Tab to autocomplete and open the first bracket. Again, my key value or my lookup value is still this sales rep column. So I'll point it again at Jones, type comma, and stipulate my commission table. Again, I can exclude the headers. I just want the data within the table. I don't want this table to slide down the page when I fill down my formula, so I'm going to press F4 to lock that range. Next, my parameter is going to be the column index. So in this situation, I want the bonus information from the third column. This is counting 1, 2, 3, always from left to right. Very important thing to remember. Your lookup value must be found in the first column of the table. From here, we're adding in the number 3 for column index 3. Move into my range lookup, and here I'm going to type a 0 just to double check that a 0 does compute in my VLOOKUP formula, and I still get the answer I require. Fill down my formula, and let's do some quick sanity checking. We can see that, for example, again, Kivel is at 3%, and so we find Kivel, and the bonus is at 3%. From here, I can enter my final column, the total commission, the thing that I was after from the beginning. I'm now using the commission values here. Commission and bonus are going to be summed together, and then I'm going to multiply that joint percentage by the total sale. $22.72 on that sale is payable to Jones. I can fill this formula down, and I have all of the commission values. From here, I might then apply a pivot table in order to summarize this information. A pivot table would then present me with total commission values for each individual sales rep. Or I could apply a filter to the table, filter by individual sales rep, and work out the total commission in that way. Using many of the different techniques that we've looked at in the rest of the course, you could summarize those values. The final thing to examine in this section is looking at how VLOOKUPs work using tables. And by here I mean the tables that we've looked at in previous parts of the course. For example, this information here is contained in tables. I can see it as a table because my table tools have flashed to the top, and I have options to change my table in different ways, formatting and applying headers, filters, etc. Applying my VLOOKUP formulas is going to work in a very similar way. I will still need a lookup value. Again, Jones in exactly the same way. I'll need to stipulate my table array in the same way as I did before. My column index. For my commission column, I will be looking in the second column of my commission table, so it's going to be a 2. And then finally, false, because I'm using exact matches only. Now this formula is going to give me exactly the same result. Really, the point of showing you this demonstration is to show you how valuable it is to use tables when working with VLOOKUPs. We can see here that this is a very easy to understand notation. I can see that I'm interested in the sales rep from the sales table, and I want information from the comms table. The only parameters that aren't fully explained is my column index and my range lookup. It is worth noting at this point as well that when it comes to the column index, we can't point at the column index. If I was to delete my 2 and simply point at the header commission, for example, my formula would return an error. The value of this column index must always be numeric. I could point it to another reference somewhere in the table. I could, for example, point it above my table and put a row lock on, and then in this cell I might enter the column value 2. In the one to the right of it, I could enter the column value 3. In this way, when I drag my formula across, I will now have a relative reference to the third column as opposed to the second column, with all other variables remaining the same. Notice that with table referencing, if I want to achieve a relative reference, I need to drag the formula. If I want to use absolute referencing, I have to copy and paste. So when I copy this formula from here to here, the result is absolute, in that this table value here remains absolute, and this table range here is also absolute. The only thing that is relative is my J2, which is written not in table notation, in standard A1, B1 type notation. Another thing to note in my table is that I have some errors. In this situation, I have an error because there's information that Excel couldn't find. It couldn't return the answer for certain values. And that is because Howard and Smith are missing from my table. They're found in the sales table, but not in the commission table. So to overcome this error, I have one of two main solutions. Firstly, I can take the missing data from my table and add it to the commissions table. I'm going to do a copy, Control C, place it under my commission table, and use a Control V. My table has automatically expanded and added certain values for me. I perhaps don't know anything about these particular sales reps, so I might just fill in all their information as 0 until somebody can provide me with an updated result. These zeros have now been filled into my table, and I have now lost any errors that were applicable. Something I'd just like to draw your attention to here at this point. When I added my extra 2 sales rep, Howard and Smith, the table updated. It grew by an extra 2 rows and even tried to fill in some information for me. But not only that, but also my formulas here automatically updated. Because they were still looking at the comms table, they automatically took on board the extra information that was added to the table without me having to update the individual sales references. Returning to my original lookups with standard referencing, if I'd had to do the same operation, I would have to go back into my formula and manually change this table array. Let's come back to our tables. Another option for fixing my errors, if I simply didn't want to add these people to my commission table, or there were just too many new salespeople to add, I might have to take a different approach to overcoming that error. Let's delete that information and cause the error again in the formula. I have a way of protecting myself from this error by using something called if error. What if error will allow me to do is wrap a particular formula in a kind of protective blanket. It will evaluate the whole of the formula and return either an informative error message or another alternative value. Effectively, it gives us control over how our errors are dealt with. So, going to the front of my VLOOKUP formula, I'm going to type this formula in front of the VLOOKUP. That is because I want the if error to encapsulate everything in the formula bar currently. So I'll type if error, open my bracket, and surround the VLOOKUP. This value parameter is in fact the entire VLOOKUP formula. So I'll move to the end of the formula and type a comma and give it the second parameter, my value to return if there is an error. So at this point I could enter some text, for example, not found, and we can experiment with that formula. Now, in any situation where there is an error, I just simply get a message informing me that information is missing. The information is not found. Another approach I might want to take is to put something numeric into my error handler. Let's use this second column to look at how else I might use the if error to handle any errors that crop up in my table. Again, I'm going to go to the beginning of the formula bar and start with my if error. Open brackets, and we're encapsulating the whole of the VLOOKUP formula. I go to the end of the formula, type a comma, and in this case I'm going to return a numeric value. A sensible numeric value might just be 0 because I don't know what the value of the commission might be. Or if I was really pressed for a approximation, some sort of semblance of what the correct answer might be, I might actually take an average of the current commission values. Open my average formula, select a given range, in this case bonuses because I'm working with the bonus column, and close my formula. So in any situation where the VLOOKUP cannot find a match for my sales rep, it is just simply going to return an average bonus figure. And because I'm using relative referencing, I need to put on a cell lock using F4 key. I'll now close my average formula, and I will apply one more closing bracket to close the entire if error formula. From here I can hit enter and fill down my formula. So here I can see where I have information missing effectively, that the formula has returned an average of the bonus values. In all other situations where we do have a positive match, for example Jones is found in our Jones in this commission table, I simply get the bonus figure of 3%. So in this video we have covered one of the most feared and useful formulas in Excel, the VLOOKUP. Not only that, but we've also looked at ways of mitigating some of the typical errors that you might find with a VLOOKUP. One area we haven't covered is changing our range lookup to true value. The true will be used to find a non-exact match, an approximation. However, this has fairly limited use within a business context. It is most useful for finding approximate matches in scientific context. And also the mechanism of using an approximate match is somewhat more complicated than using a standard VLOOKUP in the way that we've just examined. For that reason, we will not be covering approximate matches in this tutorial. In further series such as Advanced Excel, this topic will be covered in more detail.